Hey guys, here's our next little project for the day. You may not exactly tell what this is. It's upside down actually, but this is a mini excavator push blade. And so customer brought it over. He bought it used and it was worn down. Obviously this will be what contacted the ground, but he bought the little side extensions to make a little bit of a wider cut or wider push. And so this is what we're missing, which is roughly about, oh, I'd say about 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches ish or so. Yep. Actually 2.5. Okay, so being as this wore down into the square tube material, customer's not too particular about getting everything back to 100% factory, and which is fine in this case actually, because what we're going to do is we're going to just add a piece of wear strip here, or another cutting edge to say. I have some AR material, abrasion resistant material, that we're going to just weld in this place here, and it looks like it may just overlap the front of this, so maybe kind of a lap weld. And then the back side here, to cover these holes and these wear spots, we're just going to put a piece of flat bar right here and just weld along this area right here, and it'll be fine. It'll be a long time before it wears again, plenty of hours. And so this is nice because it has our little guide as to the proper height. And so I'm not quite sure if I will cut this, leave this long and cut it last, or go ahead and cut it beforehand. And I'll explain why as we're going. So let's go ahead and get this all cleaned up, get these edges cleaned up, get the paint off of it, and get it ready to start welding and cutting that flat bar. Oh, my girl here, what are you looking for? What are you finding? Anyway, so let's get to cleaning this up. All right, so now that I got it cleaned up a little bit, just need to take a measurement of how long to cut it. And then we'll start laying it out on a piece of paper, on a piece of plate. Okay, so it's 38 3/4 long. I already have a piece there on the forklift, so I'll start getting set up to cut that. All right. It's funny, here I am saying I'm not making pianos, and I'm making sure it's within a 30-second. Okay, so what I normally like to do is, since I put that track on there, this edge is pretty straight, but doesn't hurt to just give it another quick trim. That way it's got a clean edge. I don't have to grind it. I mean, just cut off like a 1/16 or so. So it is using a little bit more fuel, but I prefer it. So let me go ahead and cut that. Oh yeah. Nothing fancy. So I use these glasses. These are the UVEX Shade 5. These are big enough to go over my reading glasses. But look, nice, oh, hold on. Nice job here. Might not be able to see it so well. Might be too close for focus. I don't know. Either way, let me set it up for our next cut and I'll show you a little bit more. Okay, so I reinstalled these things here just to kind of get an idea as to what I needed. Now this looks to be 2 inches tall, but I found a piece of just regular standard flat bar, 3/8 flat bar, and it looks as if it will fit this line a little bit better. It'll just look more uniform. Now it'll be way bigger down here. It'll look like a great big old cutting edge, but that's fine because it'll just look more complete. So do I necessarily have to use AR plate for that? Not really. And being that it's longer, instead of butting up against this edge, it's going to sit against the front, and that'll be a fillet weld, and then it'll sit against the back and it'll also be a fillet weld, but that'll be much nicer overall. It'll look super heavy duty if anything, but so I think I'm going to go ahead and go with that just to kind of make it look better. Then of course this back piece here doesn't have to be anything special. I don't have any more 3-inch. Basically I was just gonna cover that up, but with some 2-inch or some 1.5 or something, just to cover these wear holes. But either way, let's see, let's go ahead and cut this strip wider than I thought, and that way it fits a little bit better. Okay, back to this. Doesn't really need preheat, but I'm going to try something here. You notice I left a little tab right here, so attached, that way it doesn't bow this way. All right, so I let this thing cool a little bit, and look how straight those pieces come or turn out. The real key is to leave it a little tab on it as you're cutting it, and it'll reduce the bowing. Okay, so let me clean this up here, and then I'll just clamp it basically to this edge, or clamp it together to match this height to this height, and then I'll just start tacking it. Pretty simple, so not bad. And then I may actually change my mind with here. Customer is, like, again, he's not trying to make pianos here, just wants it to work. So I may actually just make covers to cover this section of these worn out tubes and holes. Sorry, the holes. The worn out hole in the tube. There you go, I'll get it eventually. So now that this is going to be an AR plate, or this here I should say, the risk of this wearing down again, or the chances of this wearing down again in this whole machine's lifetime, is greatly reduced. So just to cover those holes will be fine. This didn't wear through, which is good. I'm gonna be welding right there anyway, so that'll help build up that edge. I'm a little concerned that I may punch some holes through some of this, but it looks thick enough that we won't know till we do it. So let me clean that up with a little grinder, clean up the edges, and then clamp it up there. Wait, where am I looking? Over here. All right. Okay, so as I mentioned, there's nothing critical here. This is pretty flush right there within that side there. Oh, that's still the worm side. And this is pretty flat over here and flush this way. And one thing I will notice is that there is a little bit of a gap right here, but that's all right. That's what the MIG is for, right? It'll fill it up. So there's a nice weld here. There's an overlap of about 5/8 of an inch. So I'll be able to put a good weld in here, put in a good weld in here. I'm gonna stitch it up and tack it. Some of these edges wore a little, you know, rounded off that way, but that's still okay. It doesn't really matter. Yeah, it's about as good as it's gonna get, right? And it's not gonna wear out anymore. This is gonna be heavy duty. So I think I have an appointment of somewhere I gotta be at right now. So I'm gonna pause here, but I will get back to this in a blink of an eye, which will be the morning for you guys. Okay, see you guys later. All right, so as I mentioned, we are back, and just wanted to make sure I showed you guys that this is nice and true, worked out really well. And so let's get to welding this. All right, now that I got some semi-strong tacks, they're welds, right? Stitch welds. That should hold it in position. Hold it in position as I let go of these clamps, take off these little brackets, and go ahead and flip this over so I can run a whole weld across this opposite side up here. Just didn't want to make, I just wanted to make sure it doesn't warp or bend too much. But I think we're doing okay here. Now this here was pretty much just a sealing, I call a sealing weld, in that it just sealed that gap. There's a gap there. Some spots were worse than others. You'll see here. This is almost enough to put my fingernail in. But you know, as I say, if you can step across it, you can fill it, right? The gap. So especially with MIG is a lot easier to fill the gap with. So let me go ahead and take these things off and then flip it over. Yeah. Right on. Well, it did come out kind of flat according to the arms and this, so it turned out well. It looks kind of funny because it's a, you know, it's a 3-inch wide strip, but you know, who cares if it works, right? So let's go ahead and weld up the corners first, fill in those areas, those really bigger gap areas. That way we can put one continuous weld across the top. Okay, so that tacked up pretty good. One of the things I overlooked was I initially was cleaning this front surface for a smaller strip, so I didn't clean the paint off of here. Got some pinholes right in that area, so let me clean that up with a wire brush, and that way I can have a nice smooth surface to put a nice weld. But as I was mentioning earlier, I was filling in the gapped areas. That's pretty tight fit there. There's pretty tight fit there. There's where was a gap. Same thing on this side. That was let me see, get out of the light. That was a bit of a gap. So now that that's looking good, I'll just be able to put one big hot pass through there, and hopefully that'll do it. You know, you don't really need to do multiple passes. It's not gonna come off, right? That's darn near 4 feet of weld. So let me run the wire brush on the grinder on there and put a pass on there, and we'll flip it back over and finish out the back. All right, well, I couldn't ask for any better. They came out pretty good. Had to make a wider pass there, right there where it's a little deeper. Had a couple of starts and stops so I could film, you know, with the other lens. But other than that, it came out pretty good. So let's flip this guy back over and then finish it out. Okay, so there's a bit of water coming out of, seeping out of somewhere, which is not good. But now that I've did some inspection, you can tell it wore through this weld line right here. So that's the separation line of the original front blade material and then the framework part. So this one may actually be a double pass weld. I will finish out plugging these up, then I'll put another weld. Oh, where is it? Up here, alongside it, to cover this gap. Now, one of the things that worries me is that you never know what's going to be in this line here. So it could be horrible, a lot of porosity, really bad looking. And I mean, it is what it is, right? It's one of those things, especially with MIG welding. You just never know what. MIG's got to be pretty clean. So when it starts to bubble up, you're gonna be nasty. Okay, so let's go ahead and do the same treatment of filling in that gap, filling in those gaps. Then maybe I could put a solid pass or two over it. Then we'll concern ourselves with capping these ends off. Be nice if I could put a diagonal piece, but you know it's really not going to bend. So why do all that extra work? All right, let's weld her up. Whoa, that's pretty thin. It's pretty nasty. Okay, so that looks like it'll do it. This came out nasty. A lot of pinholes came out there, and even more pinholes came out over here. That was very difficult. You can tell the discoloration, all that silica stuff. But, you know, it'll last and it'll work, especially for what it is. And so I think we are done. I think I'm gonna go ahead and, you know, clean it up, throw some paint on it, make it look halfway decent. But I'll hit it with the wire wheel and clean it up. So I guess thanks for watching. I guess no, thanks a lot. I really appreciate you guys watching, and I know this is a simple little job here. It wasn't too thrilling, but, you know, each job presents its own little challenges, whether big or small. So I do have a video of a broken banana in the works. It just takes a lot of editing, and I think I have over 200 something clips of that little individual time clips of filming, which stinks to edit. It's pretty challenging, so that's why it's taking so long. I think I did that one in the winter or something, I forget. But either way, that's why I've been putting out these little jobs a little bit sooner. They're just easier to film. But I'll get to those bigger jobs here in a while. Got some pipe welding to be doing tomorrow out in the field. I might film it. More so casing, not necessarily pipe. So that's another neat little video that, you know, maybe you guys can pick up some pointers from. But other than that, we are done. And so again, I appreciate the support, and, you know, as they say, you know, at least like the video if you can. You don't have to subscribe, but if you dig it, why not? Doesn't hurt, right? Doesn't cost you anything. And so again, we'll catch you guys in the next one, and thanks for watching.